Good evening. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I'm Judy Freshman, acting chair of the board. The board's made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Charles Smith, Ann Tamales, and Paul Melnick. There is a vacancy on the board which will be filled in due course, and we should have a full complement in April. Also present is professional staff, including Deputy Zoning Administrator Andrew Noxon, who serves as Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals, Deputy Zoning Administrator Essie Corbin, Clifton Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, and Cheryl Williams, Zoning Technician. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please turn your cell phones and pagers off or put them in silent mode. On the front table, you'll find copies of the staff report for each case before us this evening. I recommend, if you've not already seen the report for your case, that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance. And we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meets conditions and that use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhoods, because the structure's overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to the structures on the property surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historic features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the board must determine that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship, that the hardship is not generally shared by other properties in the same zoning district, and that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must determine if the administrator acted correctly. This evening, cases will be called and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip, which is available on the table in the front of the room. And give it to Ms. Williams. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask questions of any speaker, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. We've deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient: 5 minutes for applicants for use permits and variances, 3 minutes for representatives of organizations, and 2 minutes for individuals. After the board has gathered all the information they need and discussed the case, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal of the decision of this board must be made to the Circuit Court in accordance with state law. After your case is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Again, thank you for being here this evening. Please call the first case.
Thank you and good evening. Our first case tonight is V-11080-15-UP-2, and this is a use permit request by Robert and Kristen Groves to permit a setback of 3.9 feet to the eave and 4.9 feet to the wall of a new one-story addition and landing from the right side property lines to 8 feet is required, 16.7 feet to the landing and window well, 19.1 feet to the eave and 20.1 feet to the wall of a new one-story addition from the 27th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. Also 0.2 feet to the eave and 0.8 feet to the wall of an existing rear shed from the rear property line instead of 10 feet is required. It's all for the construction of a new one-story front addition, new front landing with stairs, a new front egress window well, and to maintain an existing non-conforming rear detached shed in its current location. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 5100 27th Road North.
Is the applicant present? No. The recommendation is for deferral to the April 13th BZA hearing.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I
Ms.
move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer use permit V-11080-15-UP-2 to the April 13, 2016 BZA hearing.
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Melnick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
The next case is V-11089-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Michael Kunkler and Suzanne Sullivan to permit a setback of 9.5 feet from the right side property line instead of 10 feet is required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 14.3 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new two-story right side addition. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 3111 4th Street North.
Thank you. What's next? The applicant? Questions of staff first? Hear from the applicant?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything to share with us beyond what's in our report?
Only to clarify that the addition will be a second story off to the right there and will conform to the current footprint of the house and will only go vertically one story. There will be no change to the ratio of house to yard.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Speakers? Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's approved.
The next case is V-11093-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by Carl Bernstein and Jeffrey Cuck to permit a main building footprint coverage of 29.4% instead of 28% as permitted, and a total lot coverage of 40.7% instead of 38% as permitted. It's for the construction of a new 2.5-story home. This is in the R8 zoning district on a premises located on the vacant property between 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street. The motion is actually to defer this case to the April 13th hearing.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Do we have any speakers? Thank you. Mr. Melnick.
Okay, I move to defer case V-11093-15-VA-1
Second.
to the April 2016 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Deferred. Next case?
Next case is the associated use permit V-11093-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Carl Bernstein, Jeffrey Cuck to permit a setback 6.4 feet to the eave and 7.4 feet to the wall of the home, 6.9 feet to the porch eave and 7.4 feet to the porch base, 7.5 feet to the rear deck, and 5.1 feet to the chimney, all from the right side property line instead of 13 feet is required, and also an aggregate side yard of 13.7 feet instead of 21 feet is required. It's all for the construction of a new 2.5-story home with a front porch, a right side chimney, and a rear deck. It's on the R8 zoning district, premises located between the vacant property of 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street, and this is also to be deferred as well.
move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer the subject use permit V-11093-15-VA1 to the, UP1 to the to the April
13.
13 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next case?
This is case number V-11104-16-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Jeffrey and Patricia Chisholm to permit a setback of 19.5 feet to the eave and 20 feet to the porch base from the North Taft Street right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new front porch. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2124 North Taft Street.
The applicant, please. Anyone have any questions? Excuse me. Questions of staff? No. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Did you have any comments you wish to make?
I'm sorry?
Did you have any comments you wish to make beyond what's in the report?
No, I think that we're talking about 14 inches or so.
Is that?
Okay, you want to show them?
Okay, what am I looking at?
The
there?
applicant is showing us a picture on his camera phone of his idea of what the, I guess a similar structure?
Yes.
Okay. And of what he proposes his to look like, even though in the packet there is a detailed architectural drawing of the porch.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any speakers?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit for V-11104-16-UP2, subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the use permit request. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to compliment you on the design. I mean, it's a great-looking design, and I know porches or front porches are very popular in Arlington for a good reason. So anyway, very, very pleased with the design. So we wish you the best.
Thank you. Next case?
You have to come and get a building permit. Then you'll be good. Okay, the next case is V-11111-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by William Dean to permit a setback of 15 feet from the rear property line instead of 21 feet is required. So the construction of a new rear deck. This is in the R5 zoning district, premises known as 828 North Wakefield Street.
Any questions of staff?
Madam Chair, I note from the report, let's see here, there's been no support from neighbors yet. There's been a petition, apparently, that includes 21 or more names in opposition. Is that still the case? There's nothing been submitted in support of this?
Not so far.
Okay, thank you.
The applicant, please.
I actually brought a couple statements of support and some pictures, if I can hand those up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Will Dean. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As you know, I'm requesting a use permit for a 15-foot setback in the backyard. I brought a picture of the current staircase for you to see. It's on the rear of the house and is steep, and it does not facilitate rapid entrance and exit from the back door of the house. There's also no landing there, which I understand is not consistent with the current building code. I would like to replace the existing stairs and patio with a deck to allow for easier exiting from the rear of the house and to allow for more enjoyment of the backyard. I originally submitted a plan to the county to remove the existing stairs and patio and replace it with a deck that would have been 8 feet from the rear property line. The initial feedback I received from the county staff indicated that an 8-foot setback was unreasonable, but 15-foot setback could be supported. So I asked to defer from the February meeting to allow time to redesign the deck with a 15-foot setback. I also met with the owners of 831 North Woodruff Street, my neighbors to the rear, to discuss their concerns. I think one of them's here tonight, and he can obviously speak for himself. But I believe their concerns relate to the elevation difference between the houses and the privacy concerns caused by that elevation difference. I do agree with him that those privacy concerns do exist. From my kitchen windows, I can currently see his deck and into his back door and windows. However, for most of the year, our houses are screened from each other by a tree that's in my backyard. There's a picture of that as well. To try and address their concerns about the deck, I've offered to take out that tree and replace it with, some evergreen trees that would, basically block the yards from each other year round. Unfortunately, we were not able to reach consensus on that. I also reached out to my other neighbors, and I brought letters of support from 2 of them, and one of them actually owns 2 houses, so that may count as 3. And I would like to point out some of the signatures on the petition are actually from renters who rent from owners that own the houses they're renting. And I guess my final point, I've been really shocked at how much controversy this has generated. I've included some pictures too that show, my neighbor to one side has a garage in his backyard. The neighbor behind me has a deck in his backyard that's very similar to the one I'm looking to build, and there's another neighbor off to the side who also has a deck. I obviously misunderstood the situation, but I really did not think this would be that big of a deal. Thank you for your consideration.
Any questions of the applicant? We have one speaker, Brent Carter.
Hi. I am the neighbor that is directly behind Mr. Dean at 831. And I feel it's unfortunate that I have to be here speaking against an improvement a neighbor would like to make, but I feel it's necessary because this particular deck will significantly reduce the enjoyment of my backyard and home and also reduce my property value. We both have large homes on small lots. And when we purchased the home 2 years ago, we looked long and hard at his house and said, it's really close. Do we really want to do this? And in the end, we decided we wanted to be in Arlington, and we thought that it couldn't get any worse with the spacing because Arlington's a great county, we have laws, and we follow them. So, when he talks about the controversy, part of that was because, this was very much a shock to me and my family and the rest of the neighbors. He's been planning this for 8 months, more than 8 months. And when anyone plans something like this, they have a choice to make. Are they going to go out and talk to their neighbors and do it openly and with consideration for their opinions? Or are they going to just try to do it on their own without talking to anyone and hope it gets through? And unfortunately, Mr. Dean chose the latter option. We didn't find out that this was happening until less than 1 week before the March or the February hearing. So, and he didn't talk to us. I then spent the whole weekend going around trying to figure out, what's going on, how can this be happening, what are the Arlington County rules, what can I say about it. I went to every house in the neighborhood. I assume you've looked at the picture, but this neighborhood is a really kind of a nice little enclave if you have this picture. There's basically on Woodrow and Wakefield, where he lives, there's 20 single-family homes surrounded by a whole bunch of commercial and townhouses, and some green space on the side. And I went to every one of those and did not find one supporter. So I'm not sure who his supporters are. I'd like to know who they are. But if you can see from this picture, there are red X's representing owners. Those are the bold X's. And then thinner X's representing renters who are opposed. And then there's a couple question marks. Do you guys have this in your packet? Okay, so what this shows is that there is not at the time I did this, there was not a single supporter of his deck because he hadn't talked to anyone, and the vast majority of the neighborhood is against it, including 4 of the 5 owners that surround his home. He mentioned renters as if they don't matter, but this neighborhood has a lot of renters, and historically it's had some long-term renters. We had one that just left after 30 years. We had one that ended up buying a house, and their opinion matters as well, because part of it's the enjoyment of our yard. If I go out in my backyard with this deck, his feet will be at face level, and they'll be towering over our yard, and the space between our houses will be significantly reduced. I plan to talk about a bunch of stuff in the report that the staff prepared that I didn't agree with, but that was the February report, and when I brought a lot of this information, I was happy to see that they recognized there was missing information, misleading information, and frankly, disingenuous information. For example, a design for a deck that showed a flat elevation when in fact his yard is at an angle. Statements that neighbors didn't care when he hadn't spoken to any neighbors. And so I talked to the staff for almost an hour, and I was happy to see that they changed their opinion and now recommend denying this. I did want to add, there was one thing that I still disagree with.
Sum up, please, Mr. Carter.
Sorry?
Would you sum up, please?
Yes. I would just ask, the staff mentioned these 6 properties that are outside of this neighborhood that have setbacks. And I actually have, this was not included because I didn't have it prepared at the time, but I have copies if you'd like to look. So outside of this area, inside this area, there were no use permits like this. Outside of this area.
Excuse me. Just wait till you're back at the microphone so you can be recorded. Thank you.
So inside this area, there are no use permits. Outside the area, the staff came up with these 6. And if you look at them, if you look out the back of these houses, one of them has a 17-foot setback, which is higher, and the house it goes back to is way up towards the front. The next few open up to like the Bluemont Trail, or they open up to Lubber Run. So they basically have no neighbor to the back. So these are just not comparable at all. And so to sum up, last thing I want to mention is that as part of the decision, the Arlington County's rules are that there must be justification, and it's the burden of the applicant to justify. I also went through the justification statement, and there is absolutely not one single justification. He talks about egress, things like that can all be accomplished with a legal deck.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker or the applicant?
Speaker, but for staff.
Okay, question for staff.
It's not the size of the deck, is that correct? It's the elevation of the deck. So the solution would simply be to lower the deck, and then it would be, would not require a use permit?
That's one solution.
Or, I'm sorry, it still might require a use permit because of the setback.
It may, depending on height. I mean, if you did an at-grade deck that's no taller than 8 inches, that would not require a permit, let alone any setback variance or use permit. And an at-grade patio could work as well, but with the grade difference, it's not easy to accomplish that. You're going to have one side that's going to exceed 8 inches most likely, unless you dig it into the grade.
How much grade difference is there?
Sorry?
How much grade difference is there? Is it in the staff report?
I wouldn't say it's the most accurate since we don't have a grading plan, but we're looking at about a difference between 4 feet at the end of the deck, so the very closest point where it is to the rear lot line is 4 feet, and then it's only about 3'7" at the side of the house. So it's not a huge grade change, but it's enough. If you look at the, as it goes down towards the neighboring house behind, that grade keeps going down.
Going down.
Other questions?
Madam Chair, of staff again, thank you. He could regrade his backyard, couldn't he, to make it level?
He could.
And then he could put in the 8-inch above grade deck to accomplish having.
You could put in a retaining wall and fill it behind.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'd be interested to ask the applicant.
Applicant, would you come back, please? Thank you.
So what is prohibiting you from doing a conforming deck? I mean, what is the justification for doing something that's not conforming when you do have a conforming option?
You were right. Well, I think what's currently there now is conforming, putting aside the landing issue, and it's just not very functional to come out and immediately go down the steps. So that's what I was trying to achieve, just having the level exit from the house and then putting the stairs over the side so you'd have the outdoor space. But I believe that what's there now conforms, and I think that was the recommendation, so it wouldn't really make sense to take it out and just replace it with the same thing.
Did you also listen to staff's comment about grading options that you might have?
I just heard that now. I hadn't really thought about a retaining wall. I guess that's something I could look into.
Okay.
Other questions of the applicant? Thank you. It's with the board. Comments? Motions?
I'll make a comment. It just seems to me that looking at the staff report, this doesn't seem compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. They were saying, for 2 blocks, nothing like this. And like we see, things are quite different on the properties that are identified by staff. There's nobody being directly affected, such as this, to the rear of the property. So I'm not in support of it just because of the whole compatibility thing and the adverse impact on the neighboring property.
Any other comments?
No, Madam Chair, I as I often do, I find myself in agreement with Mr. Melnick, and I just think that there's nothing that militates for any change of my position.
Motion?
I'll make a motion. Okay, in case V 111116 UP 1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals deny the application of the applicant and that they adopt the attached resolution denying the use permit.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, the next case is V-10897-14-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Tim and Andrea Belair to permit a setback of 5.6 feet to the air conditioning units from the 22nd Street South right-of-way instead of 8 feet as required, and 8.8 feet to the eve and 9.8 feet to the addition from the 22nd Street South right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. And then also a setback of 6.8 feet between the existing shed and the new 2-story rear addition instead of 8 feet as required. This is all for the construction of a new 2-story rear addition and 2 left side air conditioning units. This is in the R6 zoning district on premises known as 2116 South Joyce Street.
Thank you. Questions of the staff?
Yeah, I have one. I'm looking at the previous BZA actions, and where we granted a setback of 5.6 to the air conditioning. Is that the same air conditioning we're talking about right now?
Which part are you looking at? The previous BZA? Yes.
That's the same air
Yes.
conditioning?
Yeah, we never moved the unit for the first request.
So what was approved in 2014 was never constructed, and same with the AC units.
So did this approval lapse?
Yeah.
Is
1
that what
year.
happened?
Yes, after a year.
It lapsed?
You have to vest it within a year.
Okay,
Permit within a year.
all right, thank you. And so they're asking the same thing as they did, except instead of 8 feet, they're looking at 8.8 of eaves? Oh, no. Oh, 7.2.
They're asking for a 2-story addition as well this time instead of a 1-story, but same setbacks.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We hear from the applicant, please.
Yes, I have some.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm Tim, and this is my wife Andrea. We're the owners of 2116 South Joyce Street. And as you just described, basically what happened was we actually built, if you go to the first picture on the third page, my wife and I physically built the porch ourselves. We both work full-time, and so we didn't have enough time to build the single-story rear addition. After doing the front porch, my wonderful wife said, "Hey, Tim, can we maybe pay someone to do the back?" So I said, "Sure, give her a break and whatever." So we're here to do that. And excuse me, once we decided to do that as well, she didn't want me on a ladder going up any higher than the first level. So we originally had a single level deck design for the first use permit. This second one, since we have Cook Brothers, they're going to be doing the construction. Brian's here today if you have any questions about the architecture or whatever. But anyway, so we decided to do the second level, which will allow us to have some room for exercise equipment as well. The reason we're asking for an additional second air conditioning unit is originally I thought we would be able to heat and cool the home with a single unit, and that single unit would be down in the first, as part of the first level addition. That's where we'd place the air handler. Right now, the air handler is up in the attic, but talking with HVAC specialists, they said the only way to do this is with a dual system. So I'm still going to have a system up in the attic, but there's no way to get equipment into and out of the attic. When they built that addition, that wonderful sided addition, this is before we owned the home, they literally put that equipment in there. There's no way to get any equipment in or out. So the second story addition will allow us to build an access into the attic area, and then ultimately give us some ability for a little more room for some exercise equipment, so it'll help us to age in place. So those are the reasons why there's a few differences, but fundamentally the application is basically the same. The only difference is I didn't have eaves on my first design because we're going to have a flat deck on top, but this time with the second story addition, I felt it would be more aesthetic if we had a sloping roof line and eaves to match the existing house. So we do have that extra, and that's what Ms. Malice was mentioning. That's the only real difference to the overall setbacks that we're talking about is we added the eaves in. Oh, and also too, just to let you know, but we did receive overwhelming support from our neighbors. We received 42 signatures from neighbors in support of our proposal, and we received no negative impact or negative information from anyone concerning our proposal. So we're hoping that you will approve our use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the applicant?
Go ahead, Mr. Malik.
Yeah, I actually have one of staff. So I recall this, that the staff said that they were objecting to the air conditioning units or the condensers because it could be done of right.
Correct.
And where on the property would that be? Like if it was right?
There was a picture, I think one or
Go
two.
to the last
that one
page of
right
my-
there, exactly. See where there's an existing air conditioning unit back there to, if you look at the left side,
Mm-hmm.
I believe they could both be put on that side as long as they're no closer than 5 feet, because you're allowed to go as close as 5 feet to a side property line, whereas a street, you need to be at least 8 feet away.
Okay. Okay. With that in mind, my question, just because we always try to see if things can be done of right, and I understand what you said about them being near to the neighbor and they're
Yeah.
noisy and all that, but I know there's technology out there where they're much quieter, just very quiet. Have you all looked into that to see if you could do this as a right, with a certain make of condenser that's especially quiet?
Yeah, we have looked into different units that have lower decibel levels. But fundamentally, if you do look at that photograph, you can see those air conditioning. We have a very small lot. It's only 4,000 square feet, so we're very limited in our space. And as you can tell, that air conditioning unit is literally 2 feet from that little sitting area there. And to have 2 units there would basically, even with lower decibel levels, 2 units is going to make enough noise to make it unbearable to be back there, quite frankly. In addition, we do, I didn't have time to read this whole statement, but what I was going to say was let me see here. Our existing home is 7.2 feet from the 22nd Street property line with an additional 6.5 feet of space between the street curb, which would create the appearance of a larger setback of over 12 feet. In addition, the units would be over 40 feet away from our nearest neighbor. And we also intend, and if you look at the last page of my handout I gave you, we intend to add foliage around the units so that it doesn't, look bad. We're always concerned about what our neighbors think. And that's why we went around to all of our neighbors. I mean, literally every neighbor surrounding our property, up the street, down the street, up the other street, have all been in support of our proposal. So we're hoping that you will support our proposal.
Yeah. Thanks for that explanation.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith? Still have a question? No. Any other questions for the applicant? We have speakers?
I can make a motion, if Madam Chairwoman. if
Yes,
that's
indeed.
okay.
Go
Okay.
right ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion in case D-1089714 UP2 that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the application as advertised with the conditions set forth therein.
The alternative?
Sorry. Yeah, exactly, the approval as advertised.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded by Mr. Melnick and Ms. Malice. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
And one parting comment. Joanne and Chip no, that's a home design show. And they
We
do.
don't have
I know.
cable television,
They
so
do a
we-
lot of work, and she does a lot of work. And you should get a business card because that's a nice porch.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Cook Brothers are going to do a good job, though, for you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sort of afraid to even ask how you know that, but moving on.
Okay, the next case is V-11114-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ronald and Uni Rubio to permit a setback of 9.8 feet from the right side property line instead of 13 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 13.8 feet instead of 21 feet is required. This is for the construction of a new 2-story right side and rear addition. This is in the R8 zoning district on the premises known as 4012 25th Road North.
Thank you. Questions for the staff? We hear from the applicant, please.
Yes, hi, I'm the applicant, Ronald Rubio. My wife, he couldn't be here today. I think that the application is complete and is as it should be. So We are hoping that you'll approve this. I think it was a matter of the design that really kept the aesthetic of the home, which, as you can see, is quite unique for our neighborhood. Required this setback. The original build of the home has this wall on the left side creates the difficulty that requires this use permit. Neighbors that we spoke with, several of whom have signed a petition or signed a letter supporting it. No one opposes it as far as I know. So hope that you'll adopt this. My architect, Stephen Crawford with D.W. Ricks, is here if you have any questions for him as well. Thank you.
Anyone have questions for the applicant or his architect, who has a speaker slip, by the way? Hearing none.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit in case number V-11114-16-UP1, subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Malice, to approve the application. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I do have a clarification question on comment number 1, or the part of the approval. It mentions that no part of the structure can be enlarged without approval. What parts of the house or the property are considered the structure? We are currently showing a patio in the back. Does that count as part of the structure, or can we modify that?
That's a
design?
Mr. Noxon question.
We're just talking about the addition you're asking to build.
Okay,
You can
so the-
still modify other portions of the house as long as you're not touching any part of this new construction.
Okay, so the patio is fine. An areaway or a window well, though, is part of the structure.
Exactly.
Okay. Great. All right, thank you.
Now, that's not to say you can't add a window well or areaway to some other portion of the house. The rear is, like I said, as long as it's not touching the new structure that you're building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next case.
This is V-11115-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Todd and Shayla Banky. It's to permit a setback of 2 feet to the eave and 2.5 feet to the wall from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 7 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's for the reconstruction of an existing right side enclosed porch. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3614 6th Street South.
Thank you. Questions for staff? We'll hear from the applicant, please.
Hi, I'm Sheila Banky, and this is my husband, Todd. We are here seeking a permit to enclose the porch that you can see right there. We're not seeking to expand the footprint at all, just sort of change the jalousied windows, and we would need to raise the roof by a couple of feet to make it consistent with the rest of the home. We do have a letter from our neighbors, both the ones across the street and the one immediately adjacent to this in the White House. She's very supportive of this as well. We're hopeful that you'll approve this. We do have one question in looking through the staff report. And I'll just say we're new to this process. We've never done this before, so this may be fairly standard language. But there is a condition in there that we cannot build upon this room. In conversations with our architect, as we were sort of going through this process, we had hoped down the road to potentially put a modest addition on top of that. And so I guess we're just seeking your advice about can the condition be removed? Is this something that we could amend? We think just doing some research at looking at what you have approved in the past and driving around our neighborhood and looking at the types of additions that are on other houses in the neighborhood, that what we're envisioning would be consistent with what's in the neighborhood already. And so, we just don't want to foreclose that opportunity if there's a way to be able to apply for that in the future.
Mr. Noxon.
If you did wish to do that, you would have to come back to the BZA and make a new application.
So if this were approved, we could come back and make another application, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. It seemed like when we were reading it that it might have banned us from even coming back and making that application, so.
The BZA is the only one who can change that condition. So if you came back with a new application, now that, because of how close it is, I can't promise you that you would gain support or an approval for it being, 2 feet away from the property line with a second-story addition. So just to keep that in mind.
That's really helpful, thank you. Do you have anything?
Any other questions? Speakers? No. It's with the board.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit in case V-11115-16-UP1, subject to the conditions that the applicant now knows about in detail, which are listed in the staff report.
Thank you. It's moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next case is V-11116-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Jeffrey Gettinger and Erica Preston. This is to permit a setback of 6 feet to the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 17.9 feet instead of 18 feet is required. This is for the construction of a new 2-story left side addition. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2031 North Lexington Street.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Applicant?
Hi, my name is Erica Preston. I'm the owner of this traditional Arlington colonial home, and we are seeking to add an addition and weatherize our Florida room, which is currently the original 1950s era windows. And by doing so, we'll be able to also add a fully accessible bathroom on the first floor, which will be really helpful for my mother, who had polio as a child and is probably going to be in a wheelchair in the next couple of years, and that will make it so it's longer sustaining for her to visit and for us to be long-term members of the Arlington community. We actually shared the architectural plans with our neighbors. You can see in this picture, that's the house on the right. Is most importantly, we all have basically the same house, and so we're also very interested in community spirit of learning from our process as we remodel our home, and we'll look forward to working with them in the future.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Speakers? No speakers. The board.
Madam Chairman?
Ms. Malice.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the resolution in case V-11116-16-UP-1, granting the use permit subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Mr. Melnick. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, the next case is V-11117-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Alexander and Jillian Krug, and this is to permit a setback of 14 feet to the eave and 14.7 feet to the front porch space from the North Upton Street right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required, 13.6 feet to the eave and 14 feet to the front porch space, and also 13.6 feet to the eave of the second-story addition, and also 14.4 feet to the covered deck and areaway from the 20th Street North right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. Then also 5 feet to the 2 covered stoops from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. This is all for the construction of a new right side covered deck, eave for a new second-story addition above the first floor walls, new front porch, 2 left side covered stoops, and a new right side areaway. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2001 North Upton Street.
Questions for staff?
Madam Chairman?
Ms. Malice.
So, my understanding that you have a revised recommendation, basically,
That is correct.
and is that consistent with the resolution that's in our staff report?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so the revised resolution is in the proposed changes section? Thank you.
Applicant?
Love living in Arlington. This request has the support of our neighboring adjacent neighbors as well as the neighborhood as total.
Are you Mr. Krog?
Yes, I am. Agree with the staff's recommendations and agree that I'll abide by the conditions that they've stated.
Okay, thank you. And we have a speaker, Chris Tucker.
Hi, I'm the architect here, and I'm actually just standing up here in case you guys have questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone have questions for the applicant or the architect? Hearing none.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I think it would be appropriate to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit in case V-11117-16-UP1, subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was just reading.
Moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mr. Melnick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case is V-11118-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Michael Weissmuller and Andrea Brieri to permit a setback of 11.8 feet to the eave and 12.8 feet to the one-story addition from the 19th Road right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Then also 19 feet to the deck from the 19th Road north right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. This is for the reconstruction of an existing one-story addition above an encroaching left side garage, also the reconstruction of a left side deck. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 3181 21st Street North.
Questions for the staff?
Madam Chairman, so just to make sure, this is a reconstruction with the same dimensions,
Correct.
but it requires a use permit because it is no longer conforming.
Exactly.
It was built in the days of the Wild West.
Some of it was built by variance too, previous variances as well.
Okay, thank you.
Applicant?
Hello. We are not looking to enlarge the footprint at all. If you look at the picture up there, it has a flat roof, and we just would like to put a peaked roof on, prevent water damage. The deck up there serves no real functionality for my family. The other thing we're asking for is there is a deck on the rear. We're taking away part of it, but we would like to add stairs to access from the driveway level. We've spoken to our neighbors about it. I do have signatures from some of them.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
This picture shows construction, and there's other construction going on at this time.
Yes, in the main part of the house.
And that was by right construction?
Yes.
Other questions? Speakers? Thank you. It's with the board.
Madam, go ahead, Ms. Malice.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the resolution in case V-11118-16-UP-1, granting the use permit subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
That brings us to our last case tonight, which is actually going to be a deferral. This is case V-11119-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Marcella Ribetti to permit a setback of 6.9 feet to the left side bay from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required, 15.2 feet to the eave of the second-story addition and the two-story rear addition, and 16.2 feet to the wall of the two-story rear addition from the rear property line instead of 25 feet as required. And finally, an aggregate side yard of 11.8 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's all for the construction of a new left side first floor bay and a new two-story rear addition and an eave overhang for a new second-story addition above the first floor walls. It's in the R6 zoning district. This is on the premises known as 920 26th Place South.
Thank you. Questions? Is the applicant here? No? Speaker? No. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
All right, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer use permit V1111916 UP1 to the April 13, 2016 BZA hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith to defer to the April BZA meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, having reviewed the minutes from our October 14, 2015 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals, I move that we adopt the minutes.
Is there a second? Okay. Been moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Melnick to approve the minutes from October 14, 2015. All those in favor? Aye. Next.
Madam Chair, also having reviewed the minutes from February 17, 2016, I move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the minutes of February 17, 2016. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's a 3-0 vote?
I'll sign whatever I'm told to sign.
You all want to do the organizational?
Mr. Melnick abstained on that
He
vote?
has to abstain. He wasn't here.
That's right.
Whatever.
No offense.
Okay. Are we going to organize or wait till next time? We will have it when we have 5 members.
What is that?
Are we going to have our organizational meeting now, or are we going to have it next time?
Let's vote the new guy. You participate now?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Can do that.
All right.
We're looking for a candidate for Secretary of the Board of Zoning. Just kidding. Madam Chair, I move that we have adjourned.
What is the procedure with these lovely glasses now? Do we take them to the kitchen, or?
I'll take care of them. Don't worry about that.
Well, I'm going to nominate
Thank
you
you
for
all.
Secretary then.